Hi, I'm Taylor Wilson. I am Director of Practitioner Relations here at Zivian Health. Many practitioners that work with us are in the process of or have recently started up their own independent entity. We recently met with Miss Emily Greer, who is an aesthetics nurse practitioner. She's also part of our NET, which is short for our Nurse Practitioner Empowerment Team. We connected with her and want to share out the great things she shared with us in regard to the many benefits she's experienced since taking the leap. So we really hope you enjoy. Emily, where are you from? You're an MP. Where are you from?
So I'm from Kenner, Louisiana. Grew up in Kenner, went to high school in New Orleans, and now I live in New Orleans.
And what made you want to be an MP? Through your child, was it in your childhood? Did you grow
Uh,
up and that's what you decided you wanted to do?
I knew I wanted to be in the medical field. I originally honestly wanted to be a doctor. But then I got kind of intimidated by all the schooling and honestly the debt that came along with that. So I just decided to go the RN route first. And then
Right.
um, once I became an RN, I still wanted to be in that provider role and just have a bigger, role in the hospital with my patients because I really found that was my favorite part of being an RN. And so then I just decided to go back to school. And so here we are.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you said you're an RN first. So what specialties did you work within while you were an RN?
So I started out in pediatrics, which is my first and foremost love. I just loved working with kids. It was awesome. I did NICU, I did PICU, which is neonatal intensive care, and then pediatric intensive.
Right.
And I did just regular pediatrics, but the schedule became pretty rigorous, working holidays, nights, weekends when I started my own family. So I had to get out of the pediatric role and I went into perioperative services. So like pre-op and post-op after surgeries. And then after that, I started working in a specialty area where we did nerve blocks. So I started getting into like more of the injection type services, I guess, as an RN, and it really intrigued me a lot. Um, so that led me to where I was longest in my career was in pain management. So I actually worked in the operating room slash procedure room during spinal epidurals, spinal cord stimulator trials,
Oh,
um,
cool.
joint injections, and so there came the love of injections, right? So when I became an NP, I was injecting my own patients in their joints in office visits.
Was from someone with needle phobia. I'm so
Oh
interested
God, total opposite.
because
Yeah,
I'm I can watch people be injected, and I told you I wanted to be an MP, and I mean I originally went to RN school and I was on that route until I transitioned, and I was like I really see some different needs and such, and anyways transition my major, but I
yeah,
shadowed a pain management nurse practitioner,
nice.
and she was obviously doing a lot of joint injections, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is so cool to watch.
Yeah.
And then every time I get my blood drawn or I get a shot, I pass out and it never fails. Giving birth, every time I get an IV, I pass out. Like they know, like my husband just straight up tells them when we get in the room. He's like, "Hey, just want to let you know she's going to pass out. Don't freak out. She'll wake up in 5 seconds." And they're like, "What?"
That is, yeah. No, I mean, it's a real thing. I have a lot of patients that are needle phobic. I get it. It's just, I'm the total opposite.
And you mentioned too that obviously you have a family of your own.
I do.
And I think with the aesthetics field too, it's a lot more flexible. Not only do you get to help people feel beautiful, Botox and, other injectable services are used for a variety of things. So I know, you can assist with those who have severe migraines and things like that.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, so nice to have the opportunity to help patients in a variety of different ways. But how many kids do you have?
I have two. I have a boy and
Two?
a girl. My boy just turned 3 and my girl is 10. So we've got a very large gap, but it actually works for us. It's perfect. She's almost to the age where she can babysit. So,
Yep.
we can go take showers and know that nothing horrible is going to happen, but it's fun. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I wish I could say the same. Mine are back to back, and I have to worry about them hurting each other, but maybe that'll get better.
You'll get there. Don't worry. It's coming.
And what does your family think about like your career path? Like I'm sure they think you're like super mom at this point.
Oh, I don't know about that. I try. My husband, God bless, he deserves like to be honored as a saint. Being with me through nursing school as an RN, then my master's degree. It took a lot of time and effort. I think they're happy that I'm finally done. And I think I've reached like, I feel like what is the pinnacle of my career, like opening my own business. And this is finally going to be, I think it's going to be a bit of like a breath of fresh air for us, you know?
Yeah.
Um, I can take more time with my family now and just concentrate on what's best for us. And that's the main reason I wanted to do this. So I think they're really happy more than anything.
You're at this point where you're hitting this huge milestone. And I think it's a place that a lot of practitioners want to be. And that's why we're kind of here too. Like, I think there's like a lot of stipulation on the front end. It's like, oh my gosh, there's all these things that go into opening a business. It's impossible.
It feels that way. It does.
In your experience, when you were looking for those things, what did you struggle the most in? That's like something that we're trying to identify for everyone too. It's like, where do you struggle the most? How to get started and understand all these different regulations and nuances per state to make sure you're in compliance.
That's the hardest part. I mean, from even the simplest thing like, reserving your name with the Secretary of State, making sure that you get your correct tax identification number and like your business name or you're doing business as, or all of those. There are just so many things, so that you have to kind of delve into and figure out on your own. But the legal side of the business when you're in the medical field is the most important part. And so when you have a company like Zivian that is on board to help you and make sure that you are in compliance with those things and you can just kind of do your thing, I feel like it's so important. I mean, you really can't do it. I wouldn't want to do without it, I guess is what I'm saying. That's like the most important thing
Yeah.
to me.
I mean, audits can make or break.
Yeah.
So like, if
Yeah.
in that scenario, I think a lot of times like I feel like I have two ends of like different ends of the spectrum. Some people are like, I am so nervous. Can you please tell me I'm doing this right? And some people are like, you know what? Let's fly by the seat of our pants and let's go. But there's always a thought in the back of your head, like, I'm never going to get audited. If I don't do this completely perfect, like I'm one business out of all these practices in the US, I'm probably not going to get audited.
Yeah.
But that's where you're like, a lot of people are wrong. It like can come so fast, so unexpected. And I think that's why we're a huge value add there too, just because you have all these resources to create internal audit trails for yourself, not only with like chart reviews and things like that, but like you said too, the legal stuff. Like, how do you interpret all of that with this, legal language that feels like it's almost impossible to interpret?
It does. And I mean, I have close friends of mine that are attorneys. I have close friends of mine that have opened their own med spas or businesses. So I have those resources. But what if you don't? Depending on what state you're in, you're going to have to find a doctor to work under anyway. So
Right.
why not just have someone take that burden off of your shoulders and do it for you? Where it's like
Absolutely.
a resource that is so crucial.
But that's where I feel like we're different too. Like we have, in my experience, the most competitive rates out there. And I think that the fact we're all inclusive too, like we cover our physicians malpractice insurance, we give free access to our
That's
platform. We're like, yeah,
right.
that's so huge. Yeah. And I mean, like, what people don't realize too is that's like a huge expense for physicians, for practitioners that might have to cover their collaborators insurance if they require that. So like there's so many different things included in our pricing. So not only are you getting a physician, you're getting this whole family to back you. You're getting our legal team that monitors and updates all these laws and regulations continuously. You're getting our continuous support, you're getting the platform, you're just getting all of these different things. So, how did you make the decision to start your own practice and how did you know that you were ready?
I love this question. So I have always been a very motivated and driven individual. So wherever I was in my career, I always wanted to be the best in that field, whether it be an RN or an NP. Um, when I got into aesthetics, I guess became busier and more popular in my area than I thought I would be. Like I guess I was better at this craft than I thought I was going to be. And so it kind of blew up really fast. Um, and I've been taken advantage of so many times in in the last 3 years that there was no choice for me at that point but to do this for myself. And that's tough. That's really tough for a lot of people to come to grips with. Not everybody can just say, okay, well, I'm going to quit my job and start my own business. It's not easy. But if it makes the most sense for you, it makes the most sense. And that's just kind of where I kind of, it was like, it's all or nothing for me. Like I wasn't willing to sacrifice it anymore. I couldn't wait. I just was like, this is going to be so,
Yeah.
I get to like put my heart and soul into this and it's going to be mine, you know?
You're your boss too. Like you're
And yeah, like aside from that, it's just like all my hard work is going to be what I want it to be at the end of the day, every day. So,
Yeah, I think you can advocate for your patients on a different level in your
yes,
position too.
yes,
Like you control the quality of their care.
yes.
I think sometimes that's where providers and RNs are unhappy in
Mhm.
hospital settings or
That's a good.
clinic settings where they're employed.
Hmm.
It's because they sometimes they have to follow the standards of care of that facility. Obviously, there's standards of care and things like that for all RNs and NPs to follow. But I feel like you feel like you're a follower almost
It's
when
such
it
a good
comes.
point. It's so true.
Yeah,
Even as an NP, I practiced as an NP in the hospital before I left, and I even working in the hospital, like there were things that I had to do that I didn't want to do. I didn't
right.
want to recommend certain things to people, but I had to because it was part of what we were supposed to do. And so
Yeah,
that's right. You could be your patient's advocate and you can do it in the right way or the way that you want to do it. And, it's just, there's no feeling like that.
yeah.
So,
Aesthetics is a special place for it.
yeah, no problem.
Sorry, Chris. I'll get back on the experience track. I promise.
No,
Yeah.
I love that.
Your experience in opening this business. What are some of your services that you're going to provide? Are you going to work with your collaborating physician like on those things? Like how do you do that?
No, so you can create your list of services as long as you're not going into the realm of like, crazy like controlled substances or anything like that. Like as long as you're staying pretty simple and low key, like, your neurotoxins, your dermal fillers. I am going to offer pharmaceutical grade supplements,
Oh, okay, cool.
just kind of like things like
Yeah.
those are going to be the biggest services that I offer, in addition to skincare and stuff like that. But neurotoxins and dermal fillers that's my heart and soul. That's what I love to do.
That's
There's
awesome.
so many different things that you can do.
Yeah. No, that's so cool. And I think like that just expands your patient out, like your patient reach too. Because
Yep.
there's so many different people that you can cater to.
Yeah.
What did you say your main like patient population would be? Did you have to take that into account or are you kind of just like developing and growing that as you go and seeing who your target audience really is?
I see mainly I would say middle-aged females,
Right.
40s, 50s, 30s even. I do see a few younger people where I previously practiced. The demographic was a little bit older. So I feel
Right.
like where I'm going to be now is a lot younger population. It's kind of like a little revamped little area. There's a lot of shops, there's a lot of stores. It's right by a mall. So it's going to I feel like it's going to be a lot different where I am, and I'm excited to see the different types of patients that I bring in. But
Yeah.
I see a lot of men and women as well with the weight loss component and the pharmaceutical grade supplement.
Right.
So that
Right.
it's a very wide variety of patients.
Right. That's awesome. And you mentioned your area, like where you'll be setting up. Was it difficult to like find a building? I know that's just like another super hard, like super big piece of opening a business that's
Huge.
like, how?
At first, it was.
Yeah.
I have a really great friend of mine who is a realtor. Her name is Doris, and I've worked with her for about a year. So once I was like, I made the decision that I was going to do this, we started sending each other properties. And then this one kind of really fell into my lap. And those are the ones that you're like, okay, it was meant to be. It's been
Right.
a breeze. So, I think it's in a perfect area. It's,
That's
it's
awesome.
about maybe 10 minutes from where I live now. So kind of like the epicenter of Metairie, of that city is where it's going to be.
Cool. Okay. And well, I'm so glad that it went easy for you. I have like a ton of practitioners that like say it's so difficult and I'm still trying to find a building and I'm still
It
trying to find you know?
Yeah. I mean, you have
Yeah.
to take into account, do you want to be inside of a building? Do you want to be in an office space? Do you want to be a storefront? Do you want to be, in next to a boutique? Like, there are so many decisions that you have to make, but
Yeah.
gotta go with it.
No, for sure. And I think that's another thing too, is like with us and state regulations, obviously.
Yeah.
Sometimes your collaborator has to be in, based on what state you're in a
Yep.
certain proximity
Right.
from your exact practice location. So
Yep.
I think that that's something super cool that we offer, because like if you're, for example, Mississippi, I know this is like you're Louisiana, but it's nearby, I guess.
Oh,
Like it's not too far.
it's close.
Yeah, close by. So, I mean, in Mississippi, you have to have a collaborator that's in 75 miles proximity of you, unless you're practicing in primary care. Then there's the primary care exception code. So, a lot of like psych NPs, I feel like in Mississippi, especially, they are like, hey, I'm about to open my practice. And then they're like, I cannot find a psychiatrist within 75 miles of me for the life of me, because there's capacity ratios, there's all of this, there's in-state location requirements, practice location requirements.
Yep.
So I think that's something like that's a huge, add with us. I'm glad. I know in Louisiana, it was the physician has to have a practice location there
Yeah.
and be actively practicing there.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
yeah, that's another thing. Depending on what your state requires, which is different
yeah,
everywhere. I mean, that's just another hurdle that you have to jump through. You have to jump over to make sure you
exactly.
meet those requirements. So, yep.
Exactly.
Mhm.
A pain in the butt, I guess some would call it.
It is, but I mean, it's not change. So well, I guess
I know.
I don't know.
Also, in regard to starting your practice, what was your timeline? I know it's a little different because some people credential, obviously in payers, but in aesthetics and things like that, more common than not. I know a lot of practitioners do not, unless a lot of their population is more so injections for, like we had mentioned before, migraines and other conditions of that nature. But what was your timeline? Like, how long has it taken you from beginning to end? And how much time did Zivian like save you with the collaborator piece?
So I feel like I made the decision in January. I had started looking into companies to help with this aspect of the practice around then. And I mean, if you really want to make sure that you find the right company to help you do this, you have to do your research. So I researched in depth. You guys were the fourth company that I had met with, and extensively. Zoom calls, presentations, like running through the legal aspects of everything. And
Right.
this was hands down the easiest, simplest. It just made the most sense for me.
Absolutely.
And so, yeah, it's a huge undertaking to figure this part of it out.
Mhm.
But I wouldn't have it any other way. I mean, it took out a huge amount of stress out of making this decision since January.
Awesome.
Yeah. So
Great to hear on our end. That's a
yeah,
good pat on the back.
kudos to you guys for sure.
Yeah. Well, yay. I mean, we absolutely love all of our clients, and you've been a joy to work with as well. I mean, that's our favorite part. I think that that's
Yeah.
also something like we don't want the process to feel robotic. I know some places you don't even get to meet with the physician. You have to contact the company to talk to the physician.
That was the
Yes, it's kind of crazy because that's almost not in compliance. Like your meetings have to be, your physician has to be readily available by communications. You should have access to them all the time. So I think like we want everyone to know here too, like we're not robots behind the scene. We want to talk to you. We want
yeah,
to
you're
see you
real
face to face.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I have the ability to have a Zoom call right then and there before I sign a collaborating agreement. Whereas you sign with another company, say you sign
Yep.
it first, or you sign their proposal before you even sign the agreement, and then
Right.
they match you with your physician. But what if that's not something
That's not the
that works with you?
someone you jive with.
Or,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just, yeah. So there's a lot of aspects that you guys have, I feel like, perfected to make it as easy on us as possible.
Yeah. Well, we appreciate that.
Really fun. I'll talk to y'all soon, hopefully.
I'll talk to y'all later.
Y'all later.
Bye.
Bye.